The following podcast may contain adult language and a lack of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So get ready, nerds, because we're talking Colin Farrell's Total Recall. Colin Farrell's Total Recall.
What?
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 That dork?
That doesn't
I mean,
make sense.
Bullseye from fucking Daredevil?
That In Bruges guy? That's a good movie, by the way.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. We're doing remake versus original this week on the podcast. We already talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger's classic Total Recall, and I think across the board, we all gave it 5 stars.
5 stars.
It's literally a perfect movie. For us, nerds. Now we're doing the remake. Colin Farrell, Jessica Biel, and Kate Beckinsale doing Total Recall. Man, it's a hell of a cast.
Dude, this
Bryan Cranston.
The cast is amazing.
Cast is amazing. It's just,
Yeah, and made by the guy who did the Underworld movies.
Yeah.
oh, that makes
I love those
so much
movies.
sense. I love those movies too. All right, let's talk about it. V is here. What's up, dude?
Hi.
How you doing?
Man, I'm just, my brain is confused because
It
there's
wants to like this movie, doesn't
wants
it?
to like this movie, but I'm not going to. It's not going to fucking let me. And I'm kind of upset about it because, you know, my eyeballs are like eye-gasming through like 2 hours of this movie.
Right. Well, it
like,
is 2 hours and what, 10 minutes long or
I know.
something
Yeah,
ridiculous.
It's a little long.
It's like an hour and
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
and 50 minutes or something.
Super
So I guess
freaking
we'll-
long.
we'll get into it, though.
Wait,
It
maybe
feels like 8 hours.
did I watch the like unrated version or something? 'Cause
Probably.
it was over 2 hours.
You probably watched the sequel first or something. So.
I did watch this one before the because I've already seen Total Recall. I've already seen it. I knew what I was getting
This
into.
isn't a sequel. It's a
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's
the
a
remake
reimagining, right? So
with Colin Farrell.
yeah, okay.
It's an action reimagining with Colin Farrell. Judah's here.
Hello.
What's up?
I'm upset
Why?
because I made it 10 years without watching this because I never wanted to watch it.
Right.
And then I watched it.
And now you can't unwatch it
That's about
unless
what
you
I
go
thought
to
it
the
was.
recall place and get your mind
She didn't
erased.
even finish watching it.
Recall.
I do prefer this version of like the recall place as opposed to the
Yeah.
one in the original because, well, we'll get into it. Kate is here. What's up?
Yes, I am very upset that we had to watch this movie. Like, I understood what you were going for with like sequel versus or original versus remake.
Yeah.
No. Sequel versus original.
Yeah.
It would be totally apt for
But
him.
but so like I went and saw this movie in the theater when it came out, and I was very hyped for it. And I've seen it on home video probably 5 times since then. Because I have rewatched it, and I have fallen asleep through it each time, including the first time in the theater. Like I literally fell asleep about 3/4 of the way through, and slept through up until the very end. And I was like, oh man, I never fall asleep in theaters. This movie is so long and boring, and I hate it.
This wasn't a first watch for you though, right?
No, I've seen it before.
Okay.
Long
Yeah,
time
me
ago.
neither.
I forgot most of it though. I didn't remember
It's
the
very
plot. The
forgettable.
only thing I remembered about it was like a giant elevator, and that was about it. But rewatching it was a lot of fun. So you mentioned, Kadish, before we take our break, you mentioned that the original Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger is like a textbook way of how to pace your movie, and this is the exact opposite.
Yeah, so this movie is a textbook example of what we call a slacktion film, which is basically a boring action film that's more concerned with visuals and spectacle than with actual like meaningful action scenes. And so like basically after you see them for the first time, you're just kind of sitting there waiting for them to be over so the movie can continue. And basically every action scene in this movie is so boring. Like you just don't care about the outcomes. Whereas in the original Total Recall, like from the moment that, you know, he tries going home from the recall place, the movie's just nonstop. And there's tons of action in that, but like each action scene is fun, it's engaging, it has some stakes to it. This movie just
Does
doesn't
anybody
do that.
even die in this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bokeem Woodbine dies.
Oh,
Harry.
yeah.
You mean Spartan 066?
Yeah.
Yep.
Fucking Quan Ha's fault. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
God damn it.
Why? Why did you invoke that?
I mean, people were pissed at me in the chat for
Jesus.
bringing up Showgirls.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they come for you.
Okay,
I'm gonna go
Quan Ha.
I'm gonna go.
Sorry. Was the only way to get to you.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you guys like what we do here and you want to support us, head over to saltynerdclub.com and join up for the club membership. We do 4 to 5 exclusive podcasts available only for our club members where we're talking classic sci-fi. This month happens to be Buck Rogers in the 25th century. We also have done things like Firefly, Doctor Who, Stargate Atlantis, and the original Star Trek TV show. So if you want access to those great, fun conversations that we have about some classic awesome TV shows, head over to the club members area. It's the only place you can get them. And we also get watch parties every Monday night with our club members, and we do trivia. We do all kinds of stuff. So it's well worth the $5, and it goes a long way to helping us here at the podcast. So consider helping us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you on Discord. Total Recall, the lesser Total Recall. Take it away.
Spoiler.
Sorry.
It's true. 2012 Total Recall, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour 58 minutes. Unless you're Alex, who somehow cut an extra 12 minutes.
Oh, dude, it was 2 hours and 10 minutes. I swear that's what it said.
This had a budget of $125 million. What do you think this brought into the box office? Let's go with V first.
How much?
It had a budget of $125 million.
I don't think this movie, I think this was a flop. I think it made less than that.
Okay.
110 million.
Okay. Alex?
I'm going to say it broke even. So what was it? 125?
125.
I'm going to say it made 130.
I'm going to take an under.
Real quick, before you
Yes.
give us the answer. Here it is on my phone, downloaded, 2 hours and 10 minutes long. That's my runtime. So I
was not accusing you of lying.
I got the unrated version.
Okay.
Oh, so you got the extra fluffy version. Okay.
You got an extra 12 minutes of.
Was Ethan Hawke in your version?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the director's cut. So it has some extra footage.
Was there some
Wait,
extra?
Ethan Hawke wasn't in the original version?
No, it was Colin Farrell. So I'll talk about it.
Okay,
Once we
all right.
get in
All right. So this had a budget of $125 million and had a box office of $198 million. So it made a little bit of money, but it just didn't do it.
Okay.
That's upsetting.
Ready?
Tell me the synopsis.
Okay. Here's what it's about. Colin Farrell's gorgeous wife, Kate Beckinsale, just wants her husband to have a good night's sleep. But when he closes his eyes, he's with his gorgeous girlfriend, Jessica Biel, who wears a ponytail to show that 2 different actresses were cast as his love interests. When having a hot wife and a hot girlfriend isn't enough for him, he goes to recall to get the memory of a hot job, but finds out that he already had his mind butchered with fake memories and that his worlds have been switched. His real life is the fake one, and his dream life is the real one. But thank God neither of those lives have any gross blondes in them. Discuss.
Gross blondes.
So I surprisingly didn't hate this movie as much as I remembered. Like I remember watching, like, oh, that freaking terrible Colin Farrell Total Recall. That movie sucks.
When I
Like,
watched this, the first time I watched this movie, I watched it completely out of spite and anger. It's like, how dare they touch my masterpiece?
yeah.
Fuck you for making this movie.
They didn't even involve Mars in this
I know.
movie.
It's weird.
Yeah, they changed the entire plot. It's not about like bringing air to Mars or any kind of rebellion from mutants or anything like that. It's about 2
It's
colonies.
just the Earth sucks.
So there's a colony.
that's it. Earth sucks.
Earth is burnt up. It's almost like Judge Dredd. Like there's Mega City 1 and Mega City 2.
There was chemical warfare on Earth that basically destroyed all but like 2 continents, which was the UK and Australia. And basically, this movie didn't have the rights to the original Philip K. Dick novel or novelette. So they based it off of the rights to. So this is actually an adaptation of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, as opposed to the original source material.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
Why? I feel like they should have just made a sci-fi movie and called it something else.
And that's exactly
The
how.
second they went in as a Total Recall remake, a bunch of like old school fans were like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And like, I never wanted to watch this.
Go ahead, V.
I had to watch this movie the second time. The first time I was just angry about them making it, so I didn't give it a fair shot. This time I literally had to tell myself, okay, it's just a thing. It's a sci-fi movie.
It's a sci-fi movie.
It's a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And I had a little different end result when I just look at it as a thing on its own without any Total Recall connections to it.
Yeah, because like we talked about with the original Total Recall, how cool it is that we can argue about whether or not it's real or fake. But in this movie, they make it real painfully obvious that this is really happening to him, and this is all real, and this is actually his life, and there's no question about it. So it takes that little bit of enjoyment out of it. But you're right. Like if you just watch it, like, oh, this is some generic sci-fi movie, you can have fun with a generic sci-fi movie.
I sent you a text, right? And I said, this movie is not good, but it's given me an eyegasm.
It's eye candy.
It's pretty.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
What?
This movie is fucking gorgeous. In
lots of lens flares.
Lots of lens flares.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi, video gamey, dystopian kind of feast for your eyeballs. There's a lot of cool shit in this movie.
I love
Totally disagree.
but then that's fine.
the scene where he goes into the underbelly of the colony, and he's got like that Daft Punk music, and he's walking through the streets and the alleys, and that like sex bot comes out, and it's like glowing, and it's a robot. I'm like, this is fucking cool.
It's like Blade Runner met fucking Star Wars or something, and I really like it.
I really like
that part of that.
I really like the synthetic police force. Those robots are dope looking.
You mean the RoboCops?
The RoboCops?
That was specifically a nod to Verhoeven.
That's fucking cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the Star Wars nerd in me is going, I wonder if this was like what Coruscant looked like thousands of years ago.
Sure.
This was like the formation of the lower levels of the planet. It's just It's just I like the setting. I like the cyberpunk roots that this thing is showing off. It's interesting to me. So
that's so interesting to me that that's your take on it. Like I'm not trying to like diss on you at all. Because for me, I was like, I walked out of it, and I know I kept falling asleep through the whole thing, and I'm sure I missed the end, but I just didn't care enough to like go back and rewatch it. And I was like, fuck it, I'm pulling my Vader card. But like for me, it was so drab through the whole thing that I was like, it's ugly, and the whole movie's gray. And when you said that, that's why I was like, what? I didn't get pretty or cinematic or anything. I was just like, it was so boring and so drab that I was just like, immediately I was just like,
compared to the original?
Yeah.
Because we talked about how the original's like color palette was really flat.
This is like Blade Runner meets Ready Player One.
Okay.
Meets Star Wars, kind of that whole setting to me. That's just what I take from it. So as a Total Recall movie, no.
Yeah, no, it doesn't belong in Total Recall. They should have just had a
really
slightly
cool, like,
different sci-fi
dystopian sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
I feel like this world is just reminding me, like I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, which is an old steel town, and it's gray every day. And this brought me totally just right back there, and that's where like it is in my headcanon of it is just like this gray world. And yeah, you're right. Like the original, but it had like those pops of neon, and I don't know, there was just something so much more timeless and interesting about the original in the way that it looked compared to this. This just looks gray and like like a sci-fi movie that was made for the intention of the year that it was made.
What's really interesting is that in the original Total Recall, which was directed by Paul Verhoeven, we talked about how like Verhoeven's vision of a dystopian future is all very like concrete and fluorescent lights. And so like the fact that everything is concrete on Earth, it kind of desaturates the image. And so like there's not a lot of color in this dystopian vision that Verhoeven kind of puts forward. And you see that in RoboCop too. And then like in the original Total Recall movie, once you get to Mars, it's almost the opposite, where it's monosaturated with the color red, and it's almost oppressive that like there's always red in the background or something like that. But it's also got that gunmetal concrete feel to it as well. So it's just dystopian no matter where you go, but there's like a interesting dichotomy between the Mars stuff and the Earth stuff in the original. With this, Len Wiseman is such a visualist, like he's very much of the Zack Snyder school of visuals, where like everything's got lens flares to it. Everything's very bright and colorful. There's no distinction between the colony and the UK area.
That I'll give you.
Because like they both look the same. Like you can never tell like, okay, now they're in the colony. Oh, okay, now they're back in
so
Europe.
Like for context for people who might have not seen it.
I disagree.
You disagree?
A little bit. Because the colony is more third world sci-fi country, whereas the UK is,
it's like cyberpunk.
It's a little more modern.
Yeah.
They have the
But
the floating freeways and all that kind of stuff in the UK.
the only part of the UK that we really see is like he's
Yeah.
at work at the factory,
Yeah.
which is not really
That's
much.
actually in the colony.
The factory's in the colony?
Yeah.
But he traveled to
No.
go to work.
No, the factory's in the
The
UK.
factory's in the UK.
He wakes up in the colony and travels through the middle.
Yeah.
of the,
He's like, when he's talking to that dude, the HR
Who
guy.
cares?
I know.
Yeah.
When he's talking to the HR guy, he's like, yeah, I get up and I travel and I get on the elevator just like everybody else and I come to work.
I mean, that whole premise of taking the train through the planet core is the fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh yeah,
It's-
I have
it's
so many
so
problems with that.
So
Like they have the technology to build an elevator through the core of the
But
earth.
you can't just like go over the top.
But
Come on.
you can't like heal like all the chemical damage
Yeah.
that's in the earth. Like if you have that type of technology,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
just-
there's a
it's so
disconnect
silly.
there for sure. They were like, well, we
like what type of resources does it take to actually go through the earth?
So many.
insane amount of resources.
So I mean,
and then to build infrastructure that can handle an elevator.
I mean, come on, man. They barely build a fucking tunnel underneath the ocean from France to England, and that's only like 30 miles long. I mean, Jesus Christ. Through
Through the entire Earth
and through
core. That's crazy.
Like if they had a space elevator that went to Mars, that might
Yeah.
be kind of interesting.
So now I will say this. I will say it's very sci-fi. It's very kind of cool. You know, it's like, okay, we need to have a reason for the gravity to switch and all this kind of shit. You know, it's like, okay, all right, I'll
guess.
kind of give it to you, but it's still a silly, stupid
like
concept.
that's definitely the situation of like Len Wiseman being like, I want to do something in 0G,
Wanna do
and
something-
I have this image in my mind of people floating and fighting. It's like, how can we fit that into this movie?
An elevator going through the Earth's core.
Yeah.
Sure. So one of the things that we talked about is the amazing, beautiful women in the original Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall. I have to say, in my personal opinion, they did just as good in this one. I've had
the best scene in this movie is Kate Beckinsale in her undies.
dude, I've had a crush on Jessica Biel and Kate Beckinsale since I was a freaking teenager. Like I watched this movie and I'm just like, yeah, I'll watch both of them mow the lawn. I don't give a shit. I'll pay money for that.
I've had a Kate Beckinsale thing since the first Underworld movie came out.
Yeah.
She's a crazy goth
Have you
vampire
been watching
chick.
her
Hell
new
yeah.
show?
The one where she's a widow, right? Is it called Widow on Amazon Prime?
No, she's not a widow.
Okay.
She's like a reporter, and she's blonde in it,
Ooh,
and she looks fucking 25.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. So
But the big problem is that Jessica Biel and Kate Beckinsale look too similar.
They
to
really
each
do look
other.
alike.
Yeah, that's why like they had one in a ponytail the whole time to be like, hey, you guys, this is how you tell them apart. In one scene, Kate Beckinsale has a ponytail in, and she like turns away, and when she turns back, her hair's all down in it because the editors were like, oh shit, we can't tell those two girls apart.
yeah, they do look.
If you didn't know who Kate Beckinsale and Jessica Biel were, you'd be like, fuck, I don't. Which one?
Was which?
Yeah.
Yeah, originally they were going to get Scarlett Johansson to play the Jessica Biel part,
Ooh, that would have been fun.
but
That'd
she
been all
she
right.
decided to do the Avengers instead.
Yeah, probably a good move.
Probably a good choice for her. Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah, no, I think both of the women in this movie are freaking gorgeous as hell. Go ahead.
Maybe we would have gotten Kate Beckinsale as
Scarlet Witch,
Scarlet-
not Scarlet Witch.
as- yeah.
Black Widow.
Black
Black
Widow.
Widow.
She would have been a good Black Widow.
That was
Right.
okay.
She really would have.
But what's interesting about this movie is so in the original they had Laurie played by Sharon Stone, then they had Richter played by Michael Ironside, and they combined those characters
Into
in this
Kate
movie
Beckinsale,
into
yeah.
Kate Beckinsale's character Laurie, which I guess worked in an efficient way, but I still like the original better.
It takes an element away from it.
The one thing that I will give this movie credit for is that I actually kind of liked the Laurie character and how she wasn't just like following orders. She was like, yeah, this is the job and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And she was like, there was like a certain amount of strength to her character that she was just like playing the part, but also the second she realized he was onto it, she was a fucking badass.
Yeah.
She didn't try to be like, do you want to tie me up? She was just like,
Oh, I'm gonna kill you now.
yeah. She was an assassin, and
Yeah.
she was
Like
tough, and she was cool.
There was
she
that scene
strong.
that they do a lot to recreate scenes from the original, and they take their time
Some
to give
homages.
nods, like,
Yeah.
oh, here's the 3 tits, and here's the Total Recall thing, and here's this scene from that movie that we love, and here's the other
Here's
scene
the
that
2 weeks scene.
yeah, here's the 2. Everything about this movie like takes its time to be
Oh,
like,
but they had a twist
here's
on
the
it.
original, but this is our version.
Did you notice in the scene where with the mask that they had this big lady.
Yeah, for sure. It looked just like her.
Yeah.
A little smaller
but
version.
It really wasn't who we were supposed to be paying attention to.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That was funny.
Yeah, it was good stuff. One of the things that I really liked about this movie is, and I think it might even be better than the original, is the Total Recall facility where he goes. So like in the original, they give it this kind of like sleazy travel agency type feel.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh, we're gonna freaking come in here and we're gonna sell you this vacation package, and for $3.99
and the
more,
receptionist is just changing the color of her
just
nails.
have a great time, guy. Like that whole vibe. I understand it fit for the movie that it was made in, and I understand it's probably like a vibe from the '90s that people remember. I really like this version.
This is more like the underground.
This is like the underground, but it's like a meditation, Asian culture type thing. And I like the way that they sold it. I liked everything. And I also like, it's a small bit, but like these glow in the dark tattoos that everybody has in this, in the colony is fucking cool.
I want one.
The koi fish tattoo that chick had. I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Well, you know what I had issue with is like, why was the culture like so heavily Asian influenced? Because it's either in Australia or the UK, and that's pretty far removed from like, you know, the wastelands of Japan and China. And
China's
stuff
like
that.
right above Australia. So like, you know, people migrated down and came to Australia because it's close.
And the Australians were like, "Get down there, mate."
Yeah, it's like, good eye.
The only
you live in the tunnels now.
the only streaming channel that survived the chemical wars was Crunchyroll. So I guess, you know,
The only
I also hated how they did the throwaway nod to the 3 titties.
yeah,
that was
it was all right.
Like
It
it
was
just felt
okay.
shoehorned in there
It did felt-
because they're like, we need 3 titties and
Yeah.
But you
Total
know,
Recall.
but the
If we
difference
don't
was,
have 3 titties, people are going to be upset.
well, that's true.
Yeah.
It can't be a Total Recall
then
movie
they
without
should,
it.
honestly, they should not have called this Total Recall.
Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure.
agreed.
Yeah, it's
But
just,
they did. And if they, I agree with
if I
Vader.
had gone to this movie and I said, "There's no 3 titties,"
Yeah.
well, where's the
Yeah.
3 titties? What's going on?
If this movie called itself Total Recall and didn't have 3 tits in it somewhere, we would all be like, the fuck,
Yeah.
man?
Okay, but if they had called this something else and didn't have 3 titties in it, you would have gone to see this and immediately forgotten it.
Yeah.
if this movie had been called Mind Swapper or something, you know, just something completely unrelated to
We'll
Total
remember
Recall,
it for you wholesale.
then I probably would have liked this movie a lot better than I did. So
Well, you know, in the original Total Recall, the woman with the 3 tits was a mutant, and she was kind of part of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like we came across her throughout Quaid's journey to kind of like, you know, progress like his storyline.
And that was part of like the planet.
Yeah.
With this one, he literally asked her like, "Where's Recall?" And she's like, points over there, and that's the last we see of her. It just felt like so like fan servicey.
Completely
that
agree.
like it didn't have anything to do with the actual story. It wasn't organic.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, we're gonna shoehorn this in because we need 3 tits in a Total Recall movie.
Yeah, the reason why
100%.
we had 3 tits in the first one, I can't believe I'm saying tits this many times, but the reason why we had 3 tits in the first one was because of everything that had happened to the planet that
Yes.
turned people into, they were
And-
mutating. Their bodies were mutating, and that's
Yeah.
why.
And
That's not the case in this.
they gave a great explanation for that in the first movie, where basically Cohagen used cheap materials that didn't shield people from radiation, and that's what caused all those mutations and stuff like that.
and that's why we had so many psychics too.
So I think it's needless to say we don't like this movie as much as the first one.
no,
But
I'm upset that you guys keep saying like, "Oh, no, I didn't hate it."
I didn't
it's
hate
not
it.
the same as liking it.
no, it's not. I didn't hate it. I watched it and I was like, okay, that was a generic
like-
action sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
It was
that-
fine.
that's
It's
what it
fine.
is.
It was entertaining. But I do agree. Maybe it's because I watched the 2-hour and 10-minute version. But I do agree that like
It changed your world.
It's-
Those extra minutes.
no, it's just like it was way overdrawn. Like these action scenes, especially the chase. I don't know what version you guys watched. The version of the chase that I watched was fucking ridiculously
which
long.
chase? Because there's the car chase, and then there's the one through like the favelas.
Well, there's like the parkour chase, which wasn't bad, but it was too long. Then there was like the hover car chase.
Yeah.
In the version that I watched, that was like fucking 20 minutes. And like 10 minutes in, I was like, fuck, can this be over yet?
Yeah.
Like they took way too long to get these chases. Like, we have to get this movie from point A to point B, but we're going to do it in 30 minutes. And it was just like, Jesus Christ, it's too much.
That hover car chase was or I guess Magno car, or
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Did they have to stop and recharge it halfway through?
I know, right? But like that one, that's the perfect example of a slaction scene where it's just like, okay, really cool visuals.
Mhm.
After you see it the first time, you just don't care.
Well, that's what
and
this whole
it's
movie
boring.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Bryan Cranston as Cohagen?
I think he would have been a good Colhagen in the first
Completely underutilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of
movie. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
seeing him in anything, but in this, I almost forgot that he was there.
Yeah.
So Cohagen didn't show up like you saw his face on screens and like audio messages and stuff like that in the first movie until like the third act. Then he actually showed up in person and started fucking shit up. In this movie, the same thing happened. But I think because it was so fucking boring and drawn out, it makes it feel like he's in the movie
This
less.
movie feels like it's 8 hours long.
It does.
Yeah.
I think the two Cohagens are in each one movie the same amount of time.
Probably
Okay.
about the same.
But I think because this movie feels so much longer and so much more boring, it makes you feel like he wasn't in the movie enough.
Mhm.
But he was. Because he shows up in the third act and he's like in person and he's fucking shit up, just like he is in the original. And I'm just like, okay. So like, because I thought about the same thing. After I got done watching this movie the first time, I was like, man, Bryan Cranston wasn't really in this movie. And I went back and watched it again. And I was
He's
like,
probably top billed.
he's in the movie just as
Yeah.
much as the original Cohagen.
Because this was right around, I want to say
It's
Breaking Bad.
Breaking
was at
Bad
its
for
peak
sure.
Right
You
around
can
there,
tell
right?
because he has a wig on in one of the scenes, and I was like,
Ah.
like a very obvious wig, and I was like, oh, he was bald during that scene.
Yeah.
And Dean Norris was in the original one. He was in Breaking Bad too.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I want to point out is that Len Wiseman, the director of this movie, and he's responsible for the Underworld movies as well. So he was married to Kate Beckinsale at the time they were making this movie, which is one of the reasons why she has such a big part in it, because he cast his wife in the movie.
She's doing the Mila Jovovich thing.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
lucky.
I've always
Pretty much.
kind of compared her to Mila Jovovich.
Well,
I think
a
she
lot.
earns every role.
I think
She's
she's
great
way
in
better
everything.
than Mila.
Oh, I do
Jovovich,
too.
Yeah.
I do too.
But Colin Farrell actually had a hard time doing like the sexy stuff with Kate Beckinsale because like it's like
Her husband's
like,
right behind the
there.
camera.
I don't think Colin Farrell is good in this.
Well, originally they wanted to get Tom Hardy for the role,
Oh, that would have made it better.
and
wow.
unfortunately he passed on it, and they went with Colin Farrell.
Oh, Colin Farrell's not a bad
I
actor.
kind of,
though.
honestly, I kind of think Colin Farrell's a little boring. I don't know why, but
I think Colin Farrell's better when he's like the Penguin in the Batman, where he's doing
'cause
like
he's a good actor.
when he's doing kind of like a side character. I don't
Mhm.
see him as a very good leading man because he's just so mediocre.
What about the Recruit with Al Pacino? You guys remember that movie? Where
Nope.
They recruit him into the CIA.
I feel like that was the time where Hollywood was trying to make him a leading man, and,
Yeah.
and he's just so kind of like meh, like
Yeah.
you can't really identify with him all that much, and he works better as a supporting actor rather than like a leading man.
yeah, and remember when we did Viggo Mortensen week, and we
Mhm.
were like, Viggo is so great in everything, but I don't know if he's leading man.
Mhm.
I feel the same way about Colin Farrell, but I don't think he's even as good as Viggo Mortensen in literally anything he's ever been in.
It's funny because when I think about his side characters, like he was in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman as a side character. He's
Mhm.
fucking awesome. in
Oh,
that
he was
movie.
great in that.
He's
yeah.
fucking great. I loved watching him in that movie.
He's the soccer coach, right?
Yeah. But this movie, I think you're right. He's very generic. Like you could replace him with like
Seriously, you could
Anybody.
just pop in anyone else in that. Bruce Willis in that role. Fine.
I don't know.
Fine.
And what's
But
fun?
like the whole time we're talking about this, we're not even talking about him because he doesn't even matter.
Because he's bland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is in the version that Alex watched, there's a director's cut version of this movie. And in that version, Colin Farrell, his character, Richter, no, it's not Richter. It's, well, the original version of Quaid.
Mhm.
Basically, he goes
Hauser?
through Hauser. Yes, thank you. So Hauser goes through reconstructive surgery to make himself look like Colin Farrell so they can hide his identity. And originally, Ethan Hawke played the original version of that
Oh.
character.
Oh,
And so
that's
there's a scene where he's
Huh.
where he's playing this piano key to kind of find this like secret message
Mhm.
from himself. And in the director's cut, it's Ethan Hawke who basically pops up and tells him what's what. But in the theatrical version, it's just Colin Farrell because they were like, this is too confusing for
Yeah.
audiences. And at the end of the director's cut movie, there's also this thing where, so when Colin Farrell first goes to recall, this nurse puts like a little sticker on his arm where it's like a temporary tattoo that looks like a peace symbol.
Mhm.
And so like that's to kind of ground him in the idea that he actually went to recall. And then in the at the end of the director's cut version, he looks at his arm
And it's gone.
and it's gone.
yeah.
And so that kind of hints that like, okay, this is a recall delusion that he's going through because like that little temporary tattoo is not there.
Huh.
So there are certain things in the director's cut that tries to elevate this movie, but I've seen both and I'm just like, it's still a boring, stupid movie.
The issue is it's too slow pace. Like even the scene in the original where the guy comes in, he's like, I'm the CEO of Recall and I'm here to help you. You're stuck in this dream. Like that whole sequence. You remember that scene? The guy drops a bead of sweat. He's freaking out. That's like a what? 5 minutes, maybe less.
Oh yeah.
In the original
less,
movie,
like
a couple minutes.
2 minutes. In this movie, it's a fucking 10-minute sequence.
Yeah, and Bokeem Woodbine is the guy who comes in.
Yeah.
To
I'm your
try to
friend,
convince him.
man. Kill her. She's part of the illusion. That whole thing.
her!
But it's like it takes so long to get to the same shit done as the original. Like if this movie was just like sliced and diced and made a little bit shorter, I think it probably would have held up better.
Have
Maybe.
we talked about Sulu yet?
No.
Well, I mean, I
John
talked about how I liked the Recall in this one. I liked how it's like an Asian influence, like meditation type thing. I liked him.
One of the claim to fames of this movie is like the scene where Colin Farrell gets activated and all the RoboCops come running in. And there's this like big long onesie tracking shot where like he's fighting off all these guys, and they did that practically. There wasn't any like CGI or hidden cuts or anything like that.
That's cool.
in that scene. And Colin Farrell had to do that scene 22 times before he actually got it right. So that's kind of like the perfect example of style over substance, because that shot's very impressive and it's very cool to watch him like take out all these guys in this like one really like kinetic tracking shot. But after you see it, you're just kind of like, okay, I don't care. Literally, like there was nothing at stake in that scene.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest kind of crime of this movie is that Jessica Biel has like nothing to do for most of it. Like she's just kind of there. And the whole plot of like them trying to infiltrate the underground and get to Matthias, who's played by Bill Nye, who's also from
Another
the
Underground.
Underworld movies.
Or Underworld,
Like I just didn't care. Like the stuff with Quato in the first one was like so interesting.
Oh, it was freaky though too.
Yeah, but it was like a cool freaky. With this one,
And we were like all on the mission trying to get to him with Quaid.
Yeah, there was actually like kind of like an interesting mystery tale in the first one that Arnold Schwarzenegger's character had to uncover. With this one, there's really no mystery. I mean, like they tried to play up the mystery stuff, but like you just don't care. Like when Colin Farrell's at the piano and he's like playing, you know, like that tune and stuff like that. I was like, where did this come from? Like they never set up that he could play a piano or anything like that before.
In the director's cut, he mentions early in the movie, he's like, man, I've always wished I could play the piano. Like it was a line that he said, and they paid it off by that scene where he like learns the key and gets the holographic image from himself.
Yeah, but in the theatrical cut, he just sits down and starts playing. You're
That's
like, okay,
super weird. I'm glad I watched the unrated version. I don't know. I guess we can do final thoughts. There's not much to add. I mean, it's a lesser remake of a great classic 80s action movie.
Kind of generic, but with a lot of.
And I feel like it's more like the rule, not the exception. When you're remaking something that has a huge fan base and is considered like a classic, it's always going to fall short.
The best parts of this movie is just when Kate Beckinsale is wearing next to nothing.
That's a great part of any movie.
Yeah, true.
The ending for me, I'll finish this off on the final battle scene on the big elevator thing. I felt like that was really like underwhelming, I guess.
I barely remember.
I was like, okay, fucking blow up the elevator then, fine. I don't give a shit.
On the
it's
tube
no
thing.
memory of
It's
that.
very drawn out.
Yeah, really drawn out. And there's a scene, I don't know if it's in the version that you guys watch, but there's a scene where Jessica Biel, literally the entire time she's in this scene, the only thing she has to do is she's sitting in like this weird hovercraft helicopter thing, and she's shooting machine guns at like the robots, and that's like her only job.
Yeah.
And like she shoots it, and then the little computer's like reload, out of ammo. And she's like shit, and she's hitting the reload button. Meanwhile, Colin Farrell's getting the shit kicked out of him by Cranston, and she's constantly trying to reload it. And then like robots come over the hill, and she's all of a sudden has new ammo, and she shoots all the robots, and then she goes back to try and save Colin Farrell, and she's out of ammo again. It was like an editing mistake or something where she's like constantly fighting with the thing to reload. It's literally the only thing she had to do that entire part of the movie.
And Cohagen's evil plan in this movie is just so stupid.
Is to take over the colony because he doesn't already have enough.
He's gonna level it all and build new colonies.
It's fucking like, okay.
build condos and
It's like
Walgreens.
offer him some money. They probably sell it to you, dude. Like,
I've been sitting here the whole time we've been talking about this movie, trying to think of like, what would have made this better? Would it have been like if Mark Wahlberg played Colin Farrell? And I was like, no, I don't think that could have done anything.
The bad guy's plan.
I've been trying to like replace him with like Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all the people that we love. And nothing saves it. And then when you just said like that scene, I was like, oh, what if we just took his character out and this was a movie about Kate Beckinsale and Jessica Biel fighting each other? Maybe.
I would have watched that.
Including Mars would have helped this.
Yeah.
Including Mars. This just being like a shitty Earth sucked.
Yeah. What's up?
The taking any relationship to Total Recall out of this movie and just making it a generic dystopian sci-fi movie would have made it way better.
I agree.
Probably an extra star worth better. But
yeah. Get your ass to Mars.
Yeah.
That's what it's missing. It's missing Mars. It was just like a shitty planet.
It doesn't have
mutants.
It doesn't have the charm or the character that the first movie has.
Yeah, just
I
feels
want
generic.
little Voldemorts in people's bellies.
All right. I'm going to do middle of the road, generic sci-fi flick. Cool visuals for some of it, but ultimately underwhelming. 2.5 stars, right down the middle for me. V, how about you?
Yeah, I'm right around there. I'm kind of torn between 2.5. I'll go 2.5 simply because I did appreciate a lot of the CGI and special effects work. So yeah, 2.5.
Okay,
for me.
Jude?
I'm also torn between a 1-star crap fest and a 1.5 star. The only thing that's probably saving it from being a 1-star crap fest is the cast. I love Bryan Cranston. I love Kate Beckinsale. And that's probably the only thing that is saving it from being a 1-star crap fest for me. I never wanted to watch this movie because I didn't want to hate watch something. If somebody makes me watch it again, it will be a 1-star crap fest. So I'll go 1.5. Get your ass to Maz's, even though it wasn't in this fucking movie, out of 5.
Okay.
There's no Maz.
No Maz. Kadish, how about you?
Wait.
Oh, what?
I was just like, what it's missing is, like I said, the charm, but not one of us a single time during the review of this show
can't quote anything from
did
this movie.
any quotes or any imitations or anything. It's like his character, the Quaid character in this movie, he's boring as fuck. Yeah. And when we watched the first movie, we spent an hour just
one-liners.
I
think that's more of an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But no,
thing,
it is. But he has a charm about his movies.
Yeah,
that makes him special. And Colin Farrell is not Arnold Schwarzenegger, so it was just, yeah.
Is there a modern action star that could fill the role?
The Rock.
The Rock,
maybe.
Yeah. So anyway,
and then Kevin Hart could have played the Ironside role.
Yeah,
and he's cucking his wife.
Johnny Bernthal, Punisher.
No, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I want to know what Matt's score is.
Yeah, go ahead. Matt, take it away.
I think you are all being exceedingly generous to this movie, despite how good it looks, despite Kate Beckinsale and her undies. This movie is a total 1-star crap fest.
Whoa.
It is awful. It's stupid. It's boring. If I fall asleep in the theater watching a movie in the middle of the day, it's not a good movie. I don't care what you say about it. So yeah, this is completely... one-star crap fest for me. Like I hate this movie with 7 passions. It's so boring. It's so drawn out. It's so poorly paced, and especially when you compare it to the original, there is no comparison. This movie is just boring AF.
All right, boring AF.
Boring AF. There's the
I'm proud of you.
There's the thumbnail.
Boring as fuck. Yeah.
All right, folks, that's it for original versus remake week. Thank you guys for joining us. We had a blast watching the first one. That was much more fun than this conversation. But thank you guys for being here. Comment below. What do you think about this movie? Let us know.
This movie is so boring. We can't even make fun of it properly.
It's not. Yeah, it's hard to make fun of because it's like, meh. It's just
bland sandwich.
It's just meat,
it's
meat
like,
and cheese.
It's a cheese on a fucking communion cracker.
Yeah. It's a ketchup sandwich.
This movie made me realize how much more committed to the podcast Kadish is than me, because like we both fell asleep probably within minutes of each other while we were watching it.
You didn't?
And he was like, "I got to rewatch the end," and I was like, "Fuck
no, I don't.
No,
it's a government cheese sandwich.
I do want one of those glow in the dark freaking tattoos though. That was
Yeah,
Cool.
but that's a cyberpunk
It's
thing.
fucking
That's
cool,
not a
man.
Total Recall.
No,
thing.
it's
That's
not. It's
just
a cyberpunk shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. It is
There's
what
not
it is.
even any recall.
Yeah, there's one moment in there where they're like, "We'll remember it for you." It's like, okay.
All right, folks, that's it. Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at MattVader74 on all the socials and places. Yeah, there we go.
Cool.
At MattVader74.
Perfect.
Sure.
Jude.
You can find me at I am Juju at Instagram, whatever, at, on, inside, whatever. Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. Kadish, where can they find you?
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter and Truth Social. KadishBooks.com takes you to our Amazon page, and be sure to join our Facebook group at saltynerdgroup.com. That takes you right to it, and it's very easy to join and start participating.
Oh, and I just wanted to say, if you're listening to the audio only, please just scroll down and give us a 5-star review. It takes no time, and it's free.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it now.
He wasn't in this movie.
Oh, sorry. Well, that was a much better movie.
There's no Arnold here.
No Arnold.
No Arnold. Yeah.
Get your ass to Mars.
Give
All right,
us a
folks.
star for every Arnold you want to see in this movie.
We're done.
That's 5.
Adios. Stay salty. You can find me on the social medias. Instagram is the place to go, or Discord. See you there. Bye.